Alright, welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, please do subscribe. But today I wanted to talk to you about whether or not Tesla is lying, and has been for a decade or more, about the range that you can expect in their vehicles. So there have been some recent allegations about some stuff that they're maybe stretching the truth a little bit on or not being fully transparent on, and then some pretty shady stuff that they might be doing as well. So why don't we get all into it? Stick with me and let's go drive. Alright, well, one of the big things that was keeping people from moving to EVs when they were first becoming a little bit more mainstream was range anxiety. So people were quite worried about the perceived lack of range that they might have in an electric vehicle compared to their gas ICE counterparts. And so when you started getting some of the more mainstream ones like the Leaf, and then of course when Tesla entered the market and started showing and advertising that their cars were going to be getting, you know, upwards of 250, 300, and in some cases even close to 400 miles of range, I think, you know, that really changed things for a lot of people and helped drive some of this more mainstream EV adoption. But I think for people that have been around Tesla for a while now, we know that Tesla has a habit of exaggerating their ranges. And so what you actually find is that while a car like this, our 2022 Model Y, is advertised on Tesla's website and other materials as having a 330 mile range, in reality you're probably going to get something closer to 300 at the absolute max. And so I just checked in TeslaTyler, which I've been using since we got the car, and they actually estimate that our maximum range at 100%, which isn't actually what we can charge to most of the time because of the battery chemistry in this car. They recommend that you daily charge only up to 80%. But regardless, at 100%, we're expected to get 310 miles of range. But to me, even that sounds pretty far-fetched. So what has actually been found through a bunch of studies, including one from the SAE, or the Society of Automotive Engineers, of which I was briefly a member in college, was that on average, Tesla vehicles across the range get 26% less range than what is advertised. And so I want to kind of start with this accusation because I think it's probably the most straightforward one, although maybe one that you can kind of understand a little bit. And I don't think Tesla's necessarily doing something super wrong here, but they could do a little bit better by their customers and be a little bit more truth forward with things. So the way that this is working is the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has two different types of tests. Actually, I guess it's technically 5 tests, but car manufacturers only ever use the 2-cycle or the 5-cycle tests for rating the economy and the range, or sorry, the efficiency and the range of any car, whether it's electric, a hybrid, or a fully internal combustion engine. And the way that this works is, unlike insurance agencies where the insurance agencies themselves will actually get the car and do like crash ratings and inspect it and everything, with this EPA rating, basically just it's up to the manufacturers to report their numbers to the EPA, and the EPA will do some like basic truth finding on it, but they don't go super deep, and they kind of largely take what the manufacturers say and kind of rubber stamp it. So the way that this is working right now, Tesla is using what's called the 5-cycle test, whereas most other manufacturers use a 2-cycle one. And the reason that they do this, every manufacturer picks the one that is most advantageous to them, and will allow them to make the best claims about efficiency and range and mileage. But for Tesla, that ends up being this 5-cycle one, and in a lot of cases, apparently, I'm not actually that sure of the details of exactly why, but apparently for cars with heat pumps, which Teslas do have across the range, they tend to do better in the 5-cycle one. And so they do kind of a combination of driving on highways and around city streets, and then sort of blend them together, and that gives the final range. So for a car like this, the Model Y, that's how you end up with this 330-mile range estimate, which is really kind of a absolute best case scenario, where you're not dealing with major elevation changes, wind, weather, anything like that, and you're also getting the benefit of kind of lab testing and adding in like that city driving, which for a lot of people, like when they're actually concerned about range, is going to be on the times that you're driving further than the maximum range, which means road trips, which means you're going to be mostly on the highway, where efficiency is much lower in EVs, because that's where aerodynamic forces above certain speeds have a much larger factor than anything else on the range of the car, the efficiency, and therefore the range of the car. So basically, because Tesla is choosing to use the rating that looks the best for them and kind of works best for marketing and helps ease people's range anxiety a bit, and was very helpful, especially in those early days of getting people to convert to electric vehicles. In turn, what that actually means is they're one of the worst overestimators of what you're actually going to see in the real world in terms of range. So hence the 26% difference that was found, at least in that study. Now, I think, for this one, you can kind of see what Tesla's doing here. Like, it was a certain type of necessity to this, especially in the early days, to get people into the vehicles. It's a good marketing tool for them to be able to claim that their cars have, among the highest range of any EVs. And in most cases, you'll find that the dollar per mile of range for Teslas is actually leading or very high up, when you're cross-shopping. So it's helped Tesla a lot, but I think it's also added to a lot of confusion, which brings us to some of the more concerning things that have recently emerged, especially from a report that Reuters did investigating some of the practices of Tesla. And so what has happened is that a lot of people who don't understand, all of these intricacies and differences, which, to be honest, like, nobody should really have to. If a car company is telling you you're going to get a certain range, that's what you should expect. They are seeing these ranges, and their car is telling them directly in it. So even here, you can see that our car is at 33%, and it's telling us 103 miles. So that's kind of perfect for math. So this is telling us that we should expect to get actually 310 miles of range. So that seems to be, I don't know if I would say that's spot on, but that's at least the same thing that TeslaFi is telling us we should expect. So that's not so far off, but you'll find when you're at 100%, it's going to say like 330 miles, which people are not getting, and so then they think something is wrong with the car. And so what has actually ended up happening is when people think that there is something wrong with their car, meaning like, they're not getting the range that they expect, they think that maybe there's something wrong with the battery or the drivetrain or just, the software. And so they schedule service appointments to try to get it taken care of. And apparently what Tesla had, is at least is alleged to have been doing, is they built a special team based in Las Vegas that was tasked with intercepting any service requests that came from customers that mentioned range or battery health. And so what this team would do is they would intercept those. Any calls to Tesla for service or just customer support would be routed to this team, and basically this team was there to tell customers that there was nothing wrong, and their goals were to actually cancel these service appointments, because this would apparently save $1,000 on average for each cancellation. And so during the peak of this, they were canceling hundreds of appointments per week, which translated to hours saved, or hundreds of hours saved in service appointments across all of Tesla's service centers. And then on top of it, according to these allegations at least, they were telling customers that they were running remote diagnostics on the cars to check the battery health. And these tests would, they tell the customer that, this test showed that there's actually nothing wrong with your battery, the health is fine, and you just need to make sure that you account for different environmental and real-world factors in the range of the car. Basically saying, hey, you're driving it wrong. So in a lot of ways, it's actually somewhat similar to people that have been in like the tech world longer will remember AntennaGate that Apple had on the iPhone 4. I think it was 4, not 4S, where Apple was telling people that they were holding their phones wrong, which is why calls were dropping and not connecting. Tesla was essentially telling customers they were driving wrong, and that there's nothing wrong with the car. And now, that in itself isn't so bad. That's probably true 90+% of the time. But for the other, 1, 5, 10, whatever percent of people that actually might have something wrong with their cars, they would never know because Tesla wasn't actually running any sort of diagnostic at all. They were preventing these customers from coming in and having their car checked out. And so there might actually be something wrong with cars that was getting kind of bowled over as a result of it. So I think that part of it especially is, really something that I hope is being looked into and investigated, because that would be absolutely horrible if true, and really, really poor for customer experience for Tesla as a brand, if that does turn out to be the case. Even these allegations even have some specific allegations where in this center there'd be like ringing xylophones and bells and stuff to celebrate every time that they canceled an appointment for a customer. So just some kind of shocking, horrible things to hear there. So I really hope that stuff is not true, but I think it's Reuters. It's a pretty trustworthy news organization, so they must have at least done some investigation and cross corroboration of those facts before publishing. But we'll see where deeper investigation goes. And then the other part of this is apparently the algorithm itself that Tesla uses to display range in the car is not just like a linear thing. So they're not saying at 100% it's going to be 330 miles, therefore at 50% it's 315, and at 25% it is at 50% it would be 165, right? Why can't I do math today? Yeah, 165. At 25% it'd be half of that, at 12% it'd be half of that, etc., right? Instead, they are giving a rosy projection over 50% to give you more confidence and make you feel like you have a longer range, on these longer trips and things. And then once it goes below 50%, it'll start essentially catching back up with what the real estimation is. So that's why, for us right now, we're at 33% still, like I said, and we've got 102, 103 mile range. So like we're kind of catching up there. Actually, we just dropped. We're at 101 mile range now, still at 33%. So we're losing like 3-4 miles per percent now that we're down here, whereas up at the top we might be losing something more like 4 or 5. So you see, we kind of got like this curve rather than like a linear line for the range conversion here. And that in itself is also a bit problematic, because it means, that if they did create this algorithm, that they know that the range is not there on the upper end, and that they're making false claims about it. And can also be problems for people who are, planning out their road trip, and especially early on when you're maybe not used to exactly how to account for the range when you're driving. So, again, just like a really poor thing, I think, to be doing there, and kind of stands in stark contrast to most of the other EV manufacturers out there. So of all of the ones that I've driven, for sure, I've noticed that the range estimates on those, whether it's on the Mach-E, the ID4, Rivian, RNS, the Polestar, the Ioniq 5, all of those seem to get much closer to real world, to the actual range in the real world, based off of what they're like putting on the display. And I've noticed that even Tesla, it seems like they are able to do this calculation when you open up the energy tab. If I open up this energy tab, they've got this trip one, which is showing based off of actual consumption and everything. And this is estimating that we've got, what do we got here? Something closer to like 55 miles of range left, not the 100 that's being shown here. So that sounds a lot, more right to me. And right into, like, obviously, here they're accounting for the way that you're actually driving and the climate being on, and elevation and all of the other stuff that you're doing. So they can certainly produce an accurate forecast of the range that you should expect here. But this is not what is shown up here in the top, and it's not what's advertised or anything like that. So it does feel like there's a pretty big disconnect there. Whereas like in other cars, this calculation basically is what they're showing you front and center in the car. So I think, you know, those the other EV manufacturers are doing a better job of being like more truthful and straightforward with you rather than overestimating the range. In fact, in most of the other EVs that I've seen recently, in, you know, any sort of like real world highway kind of testing thing, so Out of Spec channel on YouTube does some great ones. State of Charge does as well. You know, and there are numerous other ones on there too. All of these, I'm seeing that when they test Teslas, they do worse than what the rated range is. When they test, say, Ford, Volkswagen, those tend to kind of come in, you know, right around what they're estimating. But then, like a lot of the newer ones, so like Lucid, BMW, Mercedes, these seem to like really far outpace what the rated range they're showing you is. So you know, you're actually getting like sort of a surprising delight there as a user of those, where you're actually going to get, you know, find that you get much better range than what the car is showing you, which I think is a better thing overall. It's good to be conservative in the range that's being shown, especially for new drivers who aren't exactly sure how far they should be going. You know, it's better to go to a charging station a little bit early and top up, maybe not at like peak charging power when you're like really low in the state of charge in the charging curve. You know, that's still much better than going the other way and being too optimistic about the range and maybe having somebody run out of battery and you know, have to get towed or have like a mobile charge come or something like that. You know, I think that's the kind of thing that can absolutely ruin the EV experience for people and probably have them return their car or never come back to EVs. So my overall opinion is that much better to go the conservative route rather than this like optimistic route that Tesla goes. So anyway, I think you know, there's still a lot more to be said and figured out as to how much of all of these allegations is true, but I can say definitively, you know, there is a gap here in the way that Tesla does their rated range versus what you're actually going to see in the real world. I think basically everybody knows about it, including Tesla. It's no surprise to them. And you know, the real question is that going to continue, or will they maybe make some changes to bring it a little bit closer to the real world? These other things, you know, these are pretty serious allegations, and if they are true, I think they warrant some you know, further investigation and certainly some potential action, maybe legal, and if not that, at least Tesla should be doing some stuff to make right for their customers. So anyway, I hope that helps potentially evaluate your buying decision with an EV. If you are worried about your car matching up to rated range, I think these are important things to be aware of in the way that Tesla does stuff, at least compared to the other EVs that are out there. Well, with that, hope you found this interesting and useful. If so, please do whack that like button and subscribe to the channel for lots more stuff coming soon. And with that, let me know below, do you kind of find the same behavior in your Tesla, or I'm also super interested, is this behavior apparent in any other types of EVs as well? In my experience, seems to be a fairly unique to Tesla experience, or at least one that is a bit larger scale in Tesla. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you out there on the road.